Kevin Jackson Radio Show.
Welcome, everybody. Where are we today? We, the collective American people, we are in amazing shape. We are no longer desperate. We have created an America of which the world can be proud. America has returned to being the inspiration of the world. And it's because of you. We Americans did this. See, I'm going to separate us out now. I'm going to play the left's game. We conservatives, we used our desperation to learn. I tell people all the time, the places where I learned the most in life came from the things that made me most scared. That's where I learned the most. See, there's power in angst. I was at an event, a couple weeks ago, and I was explaining a story where my grandmother made me play piano in front of 2,000 people when I'd only had one lesson. They asked if somebody knew how to play piano, and my grandmother raised her hand and pointed to me. I'd had one lesson. And I'm not going to bore you with the details because I tell the story often when I'm giving speeches, but I got to tell you, you can't imagine you're a 9-year-old kid and your grandmother in front of 2,000 people announces you're going to go play the piano for them and you don't know how to play the piano. You want to talk about a feeling of desperation. I wanted a place to run and hide. So Donald Trump, folks, was elected on our desperation. We got to the point where we said, what else can we do? We've gone the route that the Republicans wanted us to go, and we hadn't gotten anywhere. The Democrats got everything they wanted, and look at what happened to this country. Oh, they'll gloss it over and try to tell you that Barack Obama was the best thing since sliced bread. They know that he wasn't. And I'll get to the Democrats and their desperation in just a bit. But they knew the man was a waste. He was awful. And if they told you the truth, that's what they would say. So we got desperate, and we, instead of running from it, we confronted our desperation, and we decided Donald Trump would be the best person to alleviate our desperation. And where do we find ourselves? We find ourselves in great shape. We, conservatives, are no longer desperate. And oh, by the way, so are the left. The leftists, what do you want to call them, progressives, they're no longer desperate either, but they hold on to it. Democrats feel desperation that doesn't even exist. But theirs comes from this. It comes because they're no longer in control. And in fact, they're in deep kimchi. Because now we are in control and we get to expose everything that they did. It would be great if the Democrats said, you know what? We've been snagged. We chose the worst guy for president. That's been exposed by Donald Trump, a guy that we thought was going to bring us Armageddon. So we've been exposed. And that exposure of Barack Obama not only exposed his incompetence, it exposed the level that he was willing to go to cheat so that Donald Trump would never be president. And the Democrats should admit this. In their desperation, they should say, not only did we pick the worst possible guy on the planet, but we also picked a crook, a guy who was willing to continue the ruse that progressivism, that leftism, that Democrats were great at running things when there's absolutely no proof of it. Show me proof of it anywhere. I dare you, leftists. Call this show 844-551-8255 or KJRadio.com. I will debate you on any of these issues, and I will kick your butt, and I'll do it nicely. So I dare you. And for the record, conservatives, you know lots of big mouth leftists. Have them contact us. I would love to have them on the program. I invited a guy. It's probably been 5 years. He came on and debated me. I told him, you go away, you study. Here's some little things you can go get started with. And if you prove me wrong, come back. I will put you front and center on this program. I've done it at least 3 or 4 times. And I've had people write to me. I've made the same offer, and they never come back. I promise you, I would, the NSA's got my email, so they could send them to you. The point is, I do it all the time. They will not come and debate it because once they find out the truth, they're like, holy crap. Desperation. Democrats no longer in control. They're in deep trouble because we've exposed them, but they've learned nothing from their desperation. Nothing. Democrats will not sit before the man, stand before the public, and say, you know what, guys, we screwed up. There's a handful of them that have come over. They quietly do it in the vote. That's how Donald Trump got elected. But they won't admit it. They won't admit that they're tired of being called racist when they're not. They won't admit that they're tired of being called homophobic when they're not. I'm talking about mostly these middle-class white guys, these blue-collar workers. And by the way, Hillary Clinton's got some great things to say about white women. We'll get to that in a bit. But they don't want to admit anything. The Democrats don't want to tell you we screwed up. Not only should they not have elected Barack Obama, now they're finding out the truth about Obama. They're finding out the truth about Hillary Clinton. They're finding out the truth about the Democrat Party. They're finding out the truth about the policy decisions that they believed would work because Donald Trump's policy decisions do work. He's done it in a year. He has debunked every single thing that they thought that Barack Obama could achieve. Donald Trump is debunked in a year. No wonder they're desperate. And this is an opportunity for them. Let me tell you, I keep going back to this. You learn so much in your desperation. You want to know what you really learn in your desperation? You want to learn, you will learn how far you can dig yourself out of a hole. That's what desperation teaches. You ever had almost got your lights turned off or couldn't make a mortgage payment, almost lost your house? Maybe you did lose your house. Maybe you lost your company. Maybe you lost a person that you really loved. You should have been, more, whatever. I don't know what level drove you to your level of desperation, but I guarantee you, if you are a conservative, you learned, you took your lesson from it and went, woo, I never want to feel that again. That's why you saved. That's why you studied. That's why you became a better person. That's why you became a better human being. Is because you reached that point. The leftists, they can reach that point and they learn nothing. They become more conniving and cutthroat than you ever believed. More on this one.
This is the Kevin Jackson Radio Show.
Do you owe back taxes to the IRS or state? The secret to avoiding the IRS nightmare is to seek professional representation. My friends at Security Tax Associates provide the most cost-effective and ethical representation in the industry while helping to avoid seizures, levies, and wage garnishments. Security Tax Associates is here to ensure that the appropriate steps are taken to permanently eliminate any possibility of future tax burdens once and for all. For a free, no-obligation consultation, contact Security Tax Associates, 844-779-4177. That's 844-779-4177. 844-779-4177. Or visit them at securitytaxassociates.com.
Beth Cook Moranville, author of Closer Than Your Breath, a book of hope.
Hope, that wonderful, wonderful 4-letter word that you may feel completely out of. I wrote this book to give you great hope. It's not too late. If fetal position is an all too familiar place for you, I understand. If the next 60 seconds are too long, this book is for you. Wherever you are right now, whether you're dealing with divorce or death or sickness, take hope. You are going to make it through this pain. Don't roll your eyes. I've walked this road and I know it. The best is yet to come.
Closer Than Your Breath, a book of hope from author and speaker Beth Cook Moranville, can be found on Amazon.com or Kindle.com. For more information, visit closerthanyourBreath.com or on Facebook at Closer Than Your Breath.
Jackson Radio Show.
Desperados. Welcome back, everybody. Kevin Jackson here. It's Kevin Jackson Show. We are talking about desperation. That's a horrible feeling, isn't it? When you feel desperate. It's like, how am I going to get that bill paid? I got to get that job. I have to make it to something on time, whatever it is that creates that desperation. And there are degrees of it. And let me tell you something. You learn this when you're properly trained. You learn it as a child. Children feel desperation quickly. They feel angst. You tell them to clean up their room, and I can't clean. It's a lot to clean up, and they cry. They cry immediately. Boom. You say something to a kid that makes them feel desperate, and they immediately. And as they get older, the crying gets a little further and farther between. A typical kid. Think about it. How often does a baby cry? Multiple times a day. How often does a toddler cry? Multiple times a day, but usually less than a baby. How often does a what's the next, a small child cry? A lot, but less than a toddler and less than a baby. How often does a teen cry? I don't know, a couple times a week. If it's a girl, once a day. Whatever. I know that was so misogynist. But anyway, you get my point. The older you get, the less you cry. As an adult, you cry once a month, maybe. Once every couple of weeks, depending on the circumstances, right? How many people died, something that affects you, but you cry less and less and less, because what happens is you learn how to deal with angst. Things that would normally have made you desperate. Like a girl in junior high trying to be popular with the girls. She's desperate. She wants to know what to buy, how to do her makeup, her hair. Oh my God. And the angst hits. And over time, she learns to say, I don't give a crap what y'all think about me. See, that's where conservatism works in your favor. Conservatives get to the point where we go, I'm not getting desperate over what you think about me. See, when you learn this about yourself, your level of desperation drops exponentially when you say, I don't care what you think. I'm very secure in what I believe. And what secures you in your belief system is when you've seen it work. That's what should secure you in your belief system. That's what should give you, the what am I looking for here? Not power, but when you see things work, confidence. Thank you. Finally, you make your paycheck. The confidence of watching something be successful. For example, if you save your money and then your car breaks down and you go, I'll just run to my savings and get it. You know now I don't have to feel desperate because I have my emergency car savings. Or if you've saved for, losing your job and you've got 6 months cash in the bank and you're like, you know what? They gave me a payout. I've got 90 days of that. Plus, I've got 6 months of reserves. That's if I don't cut back. So you don't have that feeling of desperation. If you start to dwindle down the reserves and you're lazy, which is what most leftists do, then you get a sense of desperation. But here's the deal. Desperation's good. Sometimes you need that desperation even when you've planned for things, because let's face it, life doesn't always give you what you want. This asked Democrats on November the 8th of 2016. Hallelujah. Happy New Year, by the way, folks. The life doesn't give you what you want, but it will give you what you need. And let me tell you, when we were in that desperation mode, when Barack Obama got elected the first time, but certainly the second time we were desperate because we went after him. He had a record and we were like, we can beat this clown, but we didn't. And we got desperate, boy. But we recovered. That's right. And you know what we did? We learned from our desperation and we said, we don't want that typical candidate anymore. We got Donald Trump elected and we find ourselves in great shape. We are no longer desperate. The nation should no longer be desperate because we have a leader that really cares about the people. Yet Democrats are still desperate. They remain desperate. They won't confess in their desperation. They're the criminals who won't crack. You've seen them in the interrogation room. They're all cocky. All they want to do is lawyer up. They just wait. I don't have anything more to say. I just want to see my lawyer. But see, they're also schizo. Democrats create worlds for themselves that allow for their delusions and accommodate their desperation. And that's why they don't learn. See, when you hit rock bottom, when you get to the point of confession, you're like, all right, this is it. It's like you got to start your 12-step program because you are smart. There's a thing about desperation. It's a necessary ingredient to learning something or creating. Desperation is supposed to teach, but it can only teach the teachable. In the teachable, desperation drives innovation. You innovated in this last election. So I'm just going to use that as an example. You innovated in this last election cycle. But I can go further back than that. I look at the Industrial Revolution, where innovation was just at the forefront. We're talking about the early 1900s. And we had things like the cotton gin. There were people out there looking at black folks picking cotton going, man, I wouldn't want to do that for a second. So Eli Whitney says, you know what? I'm going to create something that'll strip that plant and get that cotton off. And that's what happened. The majority of invention comes from somebody's desperation. The janitor who was sweeping with that little bitty whisk broom, and he looked down that corridor and went, holy crap, this is a big corridor. He said, I could do a lot better if I put like some fabric on a big flat piece of wood and I'll push that down there and soak up all this, debris, and this will work a lot better. So he invented a push broom. And somebody went further than that and said, you know what? I could do a vacuum. I could suck up all this stuff with air. He got desperate. Maybe he ran out of time. Maybe he was given an impossible I want this done in less than an hour. People are like, I've been doing this with the push broom for a long time, and it takes 3 hours, And the guy got desperate. I'm just telling you get tried in your desperation. When I was a kid, this big kid, he was a friend of mine, and I remember I was in the first grade, and he cornered me where I was against the wall in between desks. And when I tell you this kid was big, I'm not kidding you. In the first grade, this kid was probably, I'm going to say 5'8", and he was 2 feet wide. I bet he weighed 200 pounds. I'm not exaggerating this one bit. And for some reason, he got mad at me. And I'm a little shrimpy guy at the time, and he's walking towards me like he was in a craze, like just like a zombie. And I was calling his name like, hey, trying to wake him up, and he wouldn't. And he finally got within punching distance of me, and I just got desperate. I hadn't trained in it, not a second to fight, but I just pop, and I popped him right in the face, and he starts crying because I'm calling to him, hey man, what's up? Why are you mad at me? And he starts crying. And at that point, I'm telling you, in my desperation, I wasn't a fighter then, I went, wow, that ended that. But I was desperate. Because this boy was big. If he'd gotten his hands on me, he would have crushed me. Anyway, I want to talk about desperation in terms of what we've been learning about politics, and I'm going to get into Hillary Clinton here in a bit. So hang in there, folks.
This is the Kevin Jackson Radio Show. The Kevin Jackson Radio Show.
Welcome back, everybody. Kevin Jackson here. Do you remember the Hillary Clinton campaign towards the end? They told us, they said, Hillary Clinton is so confident at this point they're focusing on Texas. It's the Kevin Jackson Show, KJRadio.com, 844-551-8255. She's so confident in her campaign, they are pulling out of the battleground states. They were pulling out of Pennsylvania. They were pulling out of Michigan. And I think they were pulling out of Ohio, and they were going to focus on Texas because battleground Texas had set Texas up to win. And so they felt like they could pull Texas. And I remember people writing to me, what the heck, texting me at the time, Kevin, if they're pulling out of Texas, they must feel like they can win. If they get Texas, it's over. Game over for America, blah, 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 blah. And I kept saying, Trump's going to win the election. What are you crying about? Stop your crying. Yeah. See, when Hillary Clinton should have been feeling desperation, she was confident. You want to know why? Because the cheat was in. At a point when Hillary Clinton should have been getting desperate, she wasn't. She got confident instead. See, she should have been looking at all the things that were happening around her and her team as well, but everybody was in on the idea that, hey, look, they can't win. There's no way Donald Trump wins. See, desperation should sharpen one's focus. It quiets the noise of what led to the desperate circumstances. What I mean by that is the more desperate you get, the more focused, the more that think of it as a blind person who's losing their vision, and it gets darker and darker and darker around the edges, and suddenly the only thing they see is the thing that's stopping them. And usually it's you. It's what you see in yourself. That's what should happen when you get desperate. You lose all the noise around you. If you were thinking about it in terms of hearing, suddenly the white noise just stops, and all you get is this silence. And the only thing you hear is the thing that you're focused on. I can describe it in many ways, because let me tell you, I've learned from that angst and that desperation from a very young age. And I don't know what tuned me into it, probably the death of my mom. I probably would be a lot less in tune with these things had my mother not died. I mean, I'm not saying that I wouldn't have developed and would, who knows what would have happened. But I'm just saying, because of that, you tend to notice things more, and your life spirals out of control a lot easier when there's not that person that's guiding you in that way. My grandmother was an amazing lady. She helped me in so many ways, but she wasn't my mom. They were different ladies. My mother was amazingly confident. My grandmother was confident, but not like my mom. Desperation. It puts you in a different frame of mind. Yeah. Makes you get in tune with yourself. You ever watch these sniper films where they'll be like boom, 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 and they're giving you the heartbeat, boom, boom. And what they're showing you is the guy is he's focusing so much on when to do trigger squeeze that he's listening to the heartbeat, boom, 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 boom. And he's slowing it down because he wants to do trigger squeeze between the pulses, boom, 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 boom. And not only that, you don't jerk. You squeeze. Everything relaxes. You're relaxing right now. You're getting into this trance of sorts. Because we've all been there. Some people train to get there instantaneously, and you're able to do it. I talk about this in terms of fighting, and I don't mean it in a bad sense. And as you guys know, last thing I want to do is fight. It's really the case. But I'll tell you this: you find the person who's trained to fight. And when it's time to fight, they're not tense at all. They're very relaxed. They've learned how to control that desperation. And they get into a level of focus that most people get into rarely in life, because you're hardly ever called to do that. Your body, believe it or not, is made to respond to it. But most people miss it, and some people ignore it. There's a saying, if falling into desperation worked to make things better, then everybody would jump into despair. But desperation doesn't help. That feeling of desperation is a terrible thing. But as I said before, the same thing that makes you laugh will make you cry. And the same thing that makes you cry can make you laugh. You can be desperate and say, phew, man, I got to the point of desperation. I just threw my hands up and said, whoa, Lord. Oh, yeah. See, but we have those things that we fall back on. Because life really is about two choices if you think about it. Inspiration or desperation. There's a saying, Thoreau said it, the mass of men lead lives of quiet desperation. I think that's very true. But it's also been said that nowadays men lead lives of noisy desperation. No longer do we internalize. We now can put those desperations out there. And now we as conservative men, I'll tell you, most of us, we just cruise along. We understand what desperation does. But the left, what their desperation does is they say things like, Black Lives Matter, man. We're desperate. And it's all nonsense. It's noisy desperation because it's not desperation at all. They don't even recognize desperation. For them, life is desperation. Talk to the average college kid graduate. I can't believe they're making me take a test, man. And I can't believe that they're keeping track of my GPA. And why am I not working when I got my basket weaving degree in social justice warrior? Blah, blah, blah. They're just, we're desperate, man. We need help. The government's got to take care of us. Everything's desperation today. They don't even recognize it. So where are we today? Let me just say, there's no collusion. We figured that out. The left were desperate to prove collusion of Donald Trump. Now the House Intel Committee says, nope, we've looked at it. And then Adam Schiff, what's he do? The most dangerous man in politics, a guy who wouldn't dare take a lie detector test on whether or not he believes that there's real Russian collusion between Donald Trump's campaign. He knows there's not. But we now have the people who are supposed to look at this have said, shut it down. It's done. Mueller's still out there looking. He's desperate. He's desperate for the wrong reason. When I look at desperation on the left, it's desperation for the wrong reasons. There's nothing to be learned from their desperation. Nothing. That's why the unfortunate thing for them is they get nothing out of it. Their children learn nothing. Nobody learns anything. Desperation. We got a mad bomber who's going around Austin, Texas, leaving packages. I'm going to make you bet, supposedly, for black people. What's this person going to do? Going to kill all the black people? Is Austin just the beginning? Now they're talking, it's a hate crime. I don't know what it is. I'll tell you this, it's a desperate person that needs to be caught, that's reaching out for help. And I'll tell you this, their desperation was caused by leftism. That I'll bet you. Austin, Texas has become the Berkeley of Texas. Yep. Desperation. Democrats want to win every election now. Woo. Yeah, we're talking about, I saw this article. It was we aren't talking about taking your guns. We just don't want any more kids to die. And I thought to myself, what a joke. It was said by that kid Hogg, the FBI guy, the kid that's 20 years old that goes from crisis to crisis, the crisis actor, who now says Betsy DeVos can't make any decisions on guns or whatever because she doesn't have enough experience. But he does. He can make decisions. He can make policy decisions on what needs to happen with guns. Because why? He's a crisis actor whose dad is in the FBI supposedly. I don't know much about him. That's what I've heard. But he says, no, we're not talking about taking your guns. We just don't want any more kids to die. Really? I tell you what, Andrew Hogg or whatever your name is, you go to the south side of Chicago, you walk those streets, you go stand and protest for the black kids that are killed every day in that city alone, and then maybe you'll have a bit more credibility for me. What else have we learned today? Well, I mean, over the past few days, but Susan Rice supposedly told the DOJ to stand down on Russia. In other words, don't look into it. Barack Obama, said, it's nonsense that Donald Trump thinks that there's collusion with Russia and that they can influence our elections. He just needs to go back to trying to convince people to vote for him. He needs to stop his whining, is what Barack Obama said. But we're still talking about this stuff. Hillary Clinton's gallivanting all around the world right now. She's in India, and she's talking about stuff. I'm going to get to that soon, because that's just the stuff that Hillary Clinton said, quite frankly, should be embarrassing to Democrats and embarrassing to white women. If you are a person who supports Hillary Clinton and you're not thoroughly embarrassed by her at this point, you're a brain-dead moron is what you are. This woman is unhinged. She's got excuses of excuses. And the last one that she gave, it deserves a lot of discussion. Mueller investigation, man. There's so much I can cover. Anyway, we got a lot coming up. I'm going to think about what I want to talk about. I think the desperation thing, the theme of that today, is something that I hope you hold on to and understand. It's important in your life when used correctly.
Kevin Jackson on the Black Sphere Radio Network.
Do you owe back taxes to the IRS or state? The secret to avoiding the IRS nightmare is to seek professional representation. My friends at Security Tax Associates provide the most cost-effective and ethical representation in the industry while helping to avoid seizures, levies, and wage garnishments. Security Tax Associates is here to ensure that the appropriate steps are taken to permanently eliminate any possibility of future tax burdens once and for all. For a free, no-obligation consultation, contact Security Tax Associates, 844-779-4177. That's 844-779-4177. 844-779-4177. Or visit them at securitytaxassociates.com.
Putting an end to identity politics. This is the Kevin Jackson Radio Show.
All right, everybody, welcome back. There must have been a little bit of desperation in that helicopter. You heard about that helicopter that was went into the water, I believe in New York. It was like a sightseeing helicopter. And now they're saying, did that helicopter, did somebody hit the switch, the fuel switch with their bag, a passenger's bag? And I'm thinking, how would a passenger's bag hit the fuel switch? Would they have been flying up front or what? And there's a place to store things in a helicopter. I've ridden in a couple of them, and you'd be nowhere near a fuel switch. I mean, I don't know much about it. Maybe I don't think you got like a little toggle switch in the compartment area for the bags. And if you had it up front, you would put it down. I would hope put it down at your feet. Worst case scenario. Even if, I don't even know if you carry one. I guess if you were carrying your work. But if you're sightseeing, you're just up there with, your jacket at best, right? It's pretty awful that people end up dying over what could have been something so minor. The only person to survive was the pilot. That's got to feel kind of rotten. Those people end up with survivor syndrome. Have you heard of that? Survivor syndrome, where something bad happens and you're the one that survives, and then you feel guilty. And particularly if you're the pilot, you're the one that's supposed to be responsible for everybody's safety, and they all die and you live. It's kind of, I don't think it's too much for his tour business. I'm not saying it's the guy's fault. I'm not, but Sully landed a plane with 100 and something passengers in it on the Hudson, and everybody survived. This dude, I saw the helicopter going down. Did you see it? And it was going into the water, and it didn't look like it did anything. It didn't like crash into the water. It just lowered into the water. But they all died. Did they drown? I don't know much about it. I'm going to be honest with you. It isn't like it's a political story. It's like, Kevin, what's the political angle here? There isn't one. X number of people died and the pilot survived. And I think they had rented one of those. It was a freak accident, wasn't it? Could we just call it a freak accident? Can you still say freak? Can you say freak and freak? I just want to know. Can you say freak and freak or whatever? Come on, talk to me. Yeah. But man, desperation. Yeah, I've been in a couple times where the airplane did some strange stuff and I didn't think about it, but right after that happened, we'd go up in the air, and the whole time I'm going, man, if we fall from here, it's going to hurt. I mean, I'm thinking it at that point, because you don't forget it. You just get a little tentative, like, oh man, this is not good. I've been thinking about this. All the issues that we deal with on a day-to-day basis. I mean, we could categorize them. You guys should write to me at kjradio.com. By the way, this is the Kevin Jackson Show. Or give me a call, 844-551-8255. And tell me, Kevin, this would be a great segment. Like, stupid liberals. That's easy. That's the entire show. So we got to get a little bit more specific. Like, stupid liberals and their pets, or, stupid things liberals do. Well, it's the whole show. So, but you get what I'm saying? Like gotcha. I think we should do a gotcha segment. Here's a gotcha. 39-year-old Dante Holmes was shot and killed while driving in a funeral procession in Baltimore on Saturday. Par for the course. So where's Black Lives Matter on this? Understand this. Dante Holmes is in a funeral procession of a young man, black man, who had been killed in Baltimore, and they are going to put this kid to rest. And 39-year-old Dante gets shot and killed as a funeral procession is going. Who shoots at a funeral procession? Come on, Black Lives Matter. Can you call me? Can you hit a brother up? Let me know. I want to know where this makes sense. Here's the thing I tell you guys all the time. Show me liberalism where it makes sense. Show me anywhere. Black people, this is what bugs me so much about black folks who want to get after black conservatives, because they say, Kevin, you a race traitor, man. You ain't helping brothers out and all this. And I'm like, why would I do it? Why would I help brothers out? What are brothers doing for me? Threatening to kill me. They want to kill me. They want to beat me up. They want to pummel me into submission. You will think like us or else. So that's number one. And that ain't going to happen. Many have tried. Many have challenged. I mean, there's a part of me that, honest to God, wants somebody to accept that, that, hey, I'm going to kick Evan's butt so I can whoop that head and put it on film. There's a part of me that wants to do it. Even though I don't want to fight. I really don't. But there's a part of me that just wants to say, look, do your will. They threaten to kill you. They call you Uncle Tom. They call you Coon, Step and Fetching, and a host of other names. And then they go, why don't you come be down with us? What? So I can be like you? Really? That's the kind of behavior you want me to mimic? Yeah, that would be good. So they do all that, and then you bring things up like, well, man, if we all down with one another, why are we killing it? Oh, man, you can't go bringing up black-on-black crime and stuff. Really? So I can't bring it up. You want to kick my butt, force me to think like you, and if I don't, you'll kill me. Oh, by the way, you'll kill me anyway. You bring it up there. Well, the white man, they do. Mexicans kill Mexicans. White people kill white people. Yeah, but black people kill a lot more of them than they kill of us. That's number one. And number two, they're not as telling other Mexicans be down with the vatos, and white people aren't saying be down with the white people. Why can't you respect the white race? But you want me to be on the team. You can't be talking about stuff like that, man. We on the team. But you'll kill me for nothing. And if I bring it up, then you go, well, we don't talk about that. I don't want to be on your team. You want me to just essentially take my licks, think like you, or take my licks, or worse yet, you'll kill me for no reason. And if I bring up any of the inconsistencies of your argument, then you say, well, you just one of them. 39-year-old Dante Holmes shot and killed while driving in a funeral procession in Baltimore. Yeah, I know. Donald Trump did it with the Russians. He was using a Russian scope on his Kalashnikov rifle. Yeah, that's what it was. Donald Trump killed that man. Black Lives Matter will come out in force. Don't be shocked if you hear, that Donald Trump had something to do with it, colluding with the Russians. Sounds crazy. I guess the Black Lives Matter group is still trying to figure out what's the next Confederate statue that needs to come down, huh? Yeah, see, that to me is a gotcha story. One of those stories where you want to feel good about, what's going on in the world, and then, gotcha. I'm talking about leftists. Gotcha. Donald Trump is hiding something, and we know where he's hiding it. Not in a safe, not in a vault. Nope, he's hiding it in his taxes. Anybody know who said that? Anybody know who offered that up? I'll tell you who it was. It was Elizabeth Pocahontas Warren. She said it about 11 months ago. Donald Trump's hiding things. And we know where he's hiding it. He's in his taxes. And then Donald Trump releases his taxes, and they find out he paid a lot of money. Donald Trump said, here you go. Here's the taxes. We want more. We need more of them. Well, here's one. That's not enough. And the one completely burst their bubble, burst their bubble, and it wasn't enough. No, we need more. We need more evidence. But ask Elizabeth Warren to spit in a test tube to prove that she's a Native American. And what's it, Elizabeth? I just don't have to do that. My family, we believe that we're Indians, and I was told this story, and that's all there is to it. She's a con artist. Elizabeth Warren is nothing more than a con artist. Oh, by the way, so are Democrats. That's who they are. They're nothing but cons. Make themselves look good. Oh, look at what I've done. I've done better. I'm better than you. Look at my resume. I've got all these credentials. Look at the awards that I've been given by other people that think like I think. And they do it. They understand the game, boy. If Republicans understood the game, we would have superstars in this industry. Superstars. Radio people, bloggers and writers and authors, and we'd have, I don't know what the equivalent of our Pulitzer would be, but we'd have that, and we'd be giving ourselves all these parties. But you know what we do? We go, nah, that's all false stuff, and it is. And then we don't want to celebrate it because it's a celebration of what you already know, and it's a waste of money and all that, and we make no headway because we don't create our stars. And I think it's because we are averse to being stars, quite honestly. I know I am. Anyway, hey, we got a lot to talk about when we come back. Listening to Kevin Jackson.
He won't stop until he's the top-rated radio talk show host in America.
What kind of weird competitive freak are you?
This is the Kevin Jackson Radio Show. This is the Kevin Jackson Radio Show.
Oh my goodness, we got a lot to talk about. Glad you guys are here. Kevin Jackson here. KJRadio.com, 844-551-8255. A little bit of fan mail. Hey, Kevin, I am from Liberal, Oregon, and just wanted you to know you have a big alpha male conservative fan base here. Thank you for all that you do. Isaiah. Thanks, Isaiah. I appreciate that. Here's one. I was listening to you in St. Louis, and I heard you mention my second family's home. I could not believe my ears. That tiny little town in the heart of Texas. I was there in November for Thanksgiving and a funeral. Matt's little sister, he had written a previous note, took her own life. But enough of the sad. I'm honored to know you keep up with the good fight. You've gained a brother that will always support you. Appreciate that, man. We were talking about a little town called Voca, Texas. And this guy doesn't listen to my show, but apparently whatever market he was in, he was pulling through and he heard the show briefly and tracked me down on Twitter to send me that note. I didn't happen to know the guy Matt. I'm sure Matt knew me because my family was pretty prolific in a good way in the little town where I grew up, which was Brady. But I live closer to this little town called Voca. And anyway, he heard me on the radio and he said, "Did you just mention that little bitty town that nobody knows?" And I was like, I did. I definitely did that. Anyway, I always appreciate getting messages from you guys. I apologize that we don't read more of them, but I do want you to know that we get them, and I pride myself, we respond back every time. So if you haven't gotten a response, I would suggest you send it again. It's either Facebook, Google, or somebody censoring it, because we send a response to everybody, and I send that response personally. Now, if you're sending it to KJ Radio on Facebook, I don't always get to those very timely, but I do the best that I can. Lots to discuss. Hillary Clinton campaigning, I guess, to be the next prime minister of India. She's in the news. Blame game. Jimmy Kimmel, he's channeling Hillary Clinton and is blaming Netflix for his Oscar stuff. And I know that's old news, but it's still funny to me in certain ways. So we may get into that. Mueller's investigation. How's that progressing these days? Did you notice I used the word progress? Progressing. And I saw an article about fake news irking the left. So I want to talk about that. But let's begin with this. The House Intel Committee said there's no collusion. And it doesn't it make you wonder what the Democrats do when they're in charge? Think about it. If they want an outcome, they get their outcome. Look at Adam Schiff, a man who knows, repeat, knows that Donald Trump is innocent. More importantly, he knows something even bigger. He knows that Hillary Clinton and dozens of others are in fact guilty. But he will not drop this. He won't let go of the predetermined outcome for this case. I want you to think about this. When you think about obstruction of justice, miscarriage of justice, all of the things that make justice, would make people not trust the justice, I want you to think about this from the perspective of black people who have said, man, we get railroaded, man, they do all these things and putting innocent people in prison. Adam Schiff is saying, if black people, you think you got something to worry about, wait till I finish with this white billionaire. But the left don't get it. They don't see that this is backfiring on them. They don't see that the covering for Hillary Clinton is making people get more and more skeptical. Forget white folks white folks are going, what? Well, it could happen to us. What are you talking about? I saw a case like that. I saw a case where a couple went to their dad's house. It was a man and wife, and the man went to his father's home, and his father was dead, killed by 3 or 4 guys, and they almost convicted this couple. I think we talked about it. White people had to be looking at that going, this is outrageous. White people could go to jail when we're innocent? What are you talking about? Hey, white people, let me just give you a little warning. It's happened to you too. Adam Schiff is saying to all of America, if I determine I'm going to get you, there's nothing you can do. I'm a dog with a bone. There is nothing you can do. I will get you. I will make you finally give in. I want you to think about what it would take to fight Adam Schiff if you weren't a Donald Trump, the president of the United States. If Adam Schiff decided you're guilty, I say you're colluding with the Russians, so you are. You go, man, I don't even know. Does Russian have 2 S's or 1? I don't even know what the Russians are. Yeah, whatever, Kevin Jackson. You're a Russian spy. You're a mole. You work with the Russians. You drink black Russians. You're Russian through and through. Yes. What's the word for yes in Russian? I know "niet" is no. He's arbitrarily doing this. That's got to scare people. Carmen Sabia said this on Twitter. After the House Intelligence Committee announced this question came from a British friend. How much taxpayer money was wasted because the Democrats didn't accept the results of the election? The very people who said, if you don't do that, you would be undermining the democratic process in America. The very people who said that are fighting tooth and nail to discredit Donald Trump, as I said earlier, knowing that Trump is innocent. As I said earlier, knowing that Hillary Clinton and many others are guilty, including our Justice Department, people at the FBI. They know it, and they still won't accept it. If there was any time for the left to step up and say, you know what, guys, we've been caught, or we've done the wrong thing, or you know what, this has been a witch hunt, we need to cut our losses. There's 50 outs. If there was any time for them to do it, it should be now. But I want to remind you about leftists, and I'll do it by telling you when Bill Clinton stood there at that podium and he wagged his finger at America, and let me tell you something. You better just pay attention. You better listen up, because I don't want to have to say this twice. I did not have sexual relations with that woman. Yada, yada, yada. And then what did we find out? He was lying. That's what Democrats do. They're liars. Short break.
This is the Kevin Jackson Radio Show.
Do you owe back taxes to the IRS or state? The The secret to avoiding the IRS nightmare is to seek professional representation. My friends at Security Tax Associates provide the most cost-effective and ethical representation in the industry while helping to avoid seizures, levies, and wage garnishments. Security Tax Associates is here to ensure that the appropriate steps are taken to permanently eliminate any possibility of future tax burdens once and for all. For a free, no-obligation consultation, contact Security Tax Associates, 844-779-4177. That's 844-779-4177. 844-779-4177. Or visit them at securitytaxassociates.com.
Beth Cook Moranville, author of Closer Than Your Breath, a book of hope.
Hope, that wonderful, wonderful four-letter word that you may feel completely out of. I wrote this book to give you great hope. It's not too late. If fetal position is an all too familiar place for you, I understand. If the next 60 seconds are too long, this book is for you. Wherever you are right now, whether you're dealing with divorce or death or sickness, take hope. You are going to make it through this pain. Don't roll your eyes. I've walked this road and I know it. The best is yet to come.
Closer Than Your Breath, a book of hope from author and speaker Beth Cook Moranville, can be found on Amazon.com or Kindle.com. For more information, visit closerthanyourBreath.com or on Facebook at Closer Than Your Breath.
This is the Kevin Jackson Radio Show.
So the big news that came yesterday was Tillerson has been fired. Yo, Rex, I've watched your performance. You're not any good. You're fired. Go get on the airplane. Go get on the helicopter. There's a reason why this needed to happen. For those of you who are going, there's more turmoil with Donald Trump. Glad you guys are here at kjradio.com so you can find out more about me and the team. 844-551-8255. Rex Tillerson is an accomplished CEO. Undoubtedly ran one of the largest privately, non-governmental companies in the world, if not the largest. I know, Apple had bigger market cap and Facebook and all that, but in terms of complexity, there is nothing more complex than the oil business. Nothing. And Rex Tillerson was over ExxonMobil, a behemoth. The bad guys of industry, right? Black energy. Now, if the news of North Korea didn't tip off most people into the fate of Tillerson, the fate that awaited him, it certainly tipped me off. Indicators came earlier. I dismissed them, not in the sense that I didn't believe there could be a rift between Tillerson and Donald Trump, but it just didn't make sense. Not enough time had passed. Not enough foreign policy things had occurred for me to say, oh, he's going to get rid of him. Personality-wise, probably. Personality-wise, there are things you can predict. In fact, maybe that's what we do one show. I just look at Trump's cabinet and I tell you when I predict they're going to leave. Because there will be turnover. As they say in the Bible, there will be wars and rumors of wars. There will be turnover and rumors of turnover with Donald Trump. See, although President Trump likes to set the course on a direction of segments, of the country, segments of his administration, there's no doubt about that. He does this in all areas. What he expects is his team to back his play. Tillerson wasn't used to playing second fiddle. It's just the truth. The no-nonsense approach of Donald Trump to foreign policy didn't play well with Rex Tillerson's personality. Tillerson doesn't confront. President Trump does. Tillerson's got that Southern charm. talks to people with that Texas accent, and he says, listen, here's how we're going to try to do this. And he's used to having to negotiate because he's got a multinational company, a global company that has to follow the rules of whatever president he deals with, whatever rules that apply, Congress and all this. So while he's number one and he's used to running the company, number one, he's waiting on orders on how to do it. And then he just responds. They aren't expecting him to be something different than his personality. So the situation with North Korea sounded a lot of alarm bells because President Trump had already had to involve himself too much in the Secretary of State's role. See, when he began working with China on trade and things like that, he was simultaneously working with North Korea. I think he expected Tillerson to know this. I don't know how much people talk. Look, I'm not in the inner circles of this stuff. The American economy is President Trump's weapon, and he expected his Secretary of State to understand how to leverage that. That's my feeling. Tillerson failed. And because of that, President Trump had to take the lead. He was forced to take the lead. He reluctantly did so because what he did is he set it up. He goes, look, I'm going to go talk to China. We're going to talk about trade. We're going to talk about devaluation of currency. We're going to talk about partnerships. We're going to talk about North Korea. We're going to talk about Russia. We're going to talk about the Asian Peninsula. We're going to talk about a lot of things. And I expect you, Rex, to look at all this, evaluate it, and put a plan together that says, here's how I'm going to stabilize this region of the world. Then we're going to move over to the Middle East. Then we'll move to ROW, which is what we used to call in sales rest of the world. Tillerson didn't do it. Trump had to step in. And he's happy to do it. He understands it. But despite what people think, he prefers to work in an advisory role leading from the very top. There's a saying in management that, only certain things flow up to your level. And how good you are determines what level that you get to. Donald Trump is saying unless Kim Jong-un has pushed the button on nukes, I don't really need to hear about this chump. That's why he called him Fat Boy and all that other stuff. He's like, look, keep Fat Boy away from me. He's that little fly that keeps buzzing around my ear while I'm trying to have a meeting. Donald Trump's like, I'm doing my job, man, at the very top. I'm greasing the skids for you to go over and say, look, Kim, you got this little bitty economy. We can shut you down. Do you see what's going on with China? Pretty soon they're going to shut you completely out. What happens, Kim, when your generals aren't eating? It's one thing for your privates not to eat. Your PFCs, your lower ranked people. I don't say your privates. It may mislead some leftists. But it's one thing when those people aren't eating. It's one thing when you're starving some folks and you've kept your finger on the pulse of things. You kept your foot on the neck of your people for a long time. They deal with that. It's going to be another when it starts to filter up. And we're going to make sure China does it. See, if Rex had gone and had that conversation, then Kim Jong-un doesn't get to talk about pushing his little button. He actually got when he made that comment, he got Tillerson fired. Tillerson was supposed to fire back at Kim, not President Trump. President Trump should not have had to respond to this little dude. Because in that moment, Kim showed that he had no respect for Tillerson. What we call in sales, he went around him. He sold above him. And that's what made Trump go, he has no respect for you. Trump has this, it's funny to watch, I'm telling you. It's because it's draconian to some degree. It's Machiavellian in another piece, but he looks at these things and he looks at the optics of it and goes, man, that guy's no respect for you. A guy that respects you wouldn't do that. I know that's what Trump's thinking. So here's what he says. He tweeted, he says, and this is quintessential Trump. It says, North Korean leader Kim Jong-un stated that the nuclear button is on his desk at all times. Will someone from his depleted and food-starved regime please inform him that I too have a nuclear button? But it's much bigger and more powerful than the one on his, and my button works. And that was it. That was the beginning of the end. Donald Trump had to step in to help a surrogate who, by the way, led one of the biggest companies in the world, has a bigger market cap than North Korea. You know, I mean, it left to on its own, it was a bigger company, I'm talking about Exxon, than North Korea. And Tillerson just just doody. Well, we'll get to it. We'll figure things out. I'll get back with you. And he's very diplomatic, and Trump's going, what happened to you? What? I don't need diplomats. That's the last thing we need. I brought you on for your expertise in dealing with global companies and understanding the complexities therein. More when we come back on this subject.
This is the Kevin Jackson Radio Show. This is the Kevin Jackson Radio Show.
Rex Tillerson is gone like a turkey through the cone. Welcome back, everybody. Kevin Jackson here, KJRadio.com. Tillerson's gone. And look, the media, oh, Tillerson's gone. We predicted it, you know, because that's the first thing they're going to tell you. And, you know, people, he's unhappy, whatever, fine. Then they're going to tell you, Donald Trump's got lots of turnover. It's horrible over there. People are wanting to quit. Let me tell you something. Donald Trump got turnover. There's going to be a lot more turnover. And good. You don't get the rest on your laurels. You better be good at what you do or you can be gone. I like that. Kim Jong-un tweeted essentially a threat to the President of the United States. You want to know why? Because Rex Tillerson hadn't done his job properly. Trump set it up. Different America. America first, blah, blah, blah. We will kick your butt. And Rex Tillerson's like, well, I need to be a diplomat over here. I'm not really sure, you know, this, that, and the other. You know, one of the things that was kind of the writing on the wall for Tillerson, too, you may not know this, the left kind of looked at him as like, oh, he's pretty good. His foreign policy was amazing. He had a meeting where the Russians ended up walking out, and Tillerson said something like, I really don't know what to do about it. He goes, you know, look, I'm no diplomat. And they were like, it's brave of him to say that. They knew that Tillerson wasn't competent enough to handle the role. Tillerson was admitting, look, I'm no diplomat. I'm still figuring this out. I'm still getting my sea legs. But Politico wrote this very flowery article about Tillerson, knowing that he wasn't prepared. And Trump got it. He brought these people on because he thought, you know what, they can help. And guess what? Tillerson's a very accomplished man. In his milieu, he's an amazing dude. But outside of it, not so much. Don't be shocked by that, everybody. So when Kim Jong-un tweeted that, Tillerson should have been firing back, ready to go. But instead, the man had to jump in, Donald Trump, and he's going, look, I pay you people to keep the stuff off my desk. Keep it clear so I can stay focused on the bigger picture, which is these stupid leftists. Show Tillerson is weak. In August of last year, Axios, who the CEO of that company hates Trump, but he says there's a ticking problem with Rex Tillerson and it's growing louder by the day, according to officials inside and close to the White House. President Trump has been growing increasingly frustrated with his Secretary of State. One time recently, after Trump had returned from a meeting on Afghanistan, a source recalled Trump saying, Rex just doesn't get it. He's totally establishment in his thinking. Now, I talked about this earlier. Tillerson, in as powerful as a position that he was running ExxonMobil, the problem he had is he was always being told what to do. It's a big company. They bring a lot of revenue all around the world and so on and so forth, but he's still at the behest of these world leaders. Many times it's dictators. It's bad people. Look, I've been over in many of these countries, and you're dealing with them is not easy. When you talk to the boards and the CEOs, they're like, yeah, but we got to deal with, the tribal warfare here, and this guy may be deposed or dethroned, and he's looking for optics of this and that, and there's kickbacks and payola and things that you'd be like, what? That's not what they taught in Harvard Business School. Huh? Nope. That's right, Dorothy, you're not in Kansas anymore. So Tillerson was still looking at things from this industry point of view, that didn't rely on his ability as a CEO. I mean, Trump had the same issues. He's like, I want to build a resort and you're on your thing. And they'd give him grief and Trump would be like, okay, fine, I'll build in another country. ExxonMobil, gas is gas. Oil is oil. Either it's there or it isn't. Can I build a facility on your land or no? What's it going to cost? What are going to be the concessions? Tillerson was used to getting told what to do, even though he's a powerful guy. But there was another thing that made Tillerson get on Donald Trump's radar, and it had to do with Charlottesville. Axios continues. They say, Tillerson's jaw-dropping comments on TV will likely only worsen their relationship. This is on a particular day. It says, Fox News Sunday moderator Chris Wallace asked Tillerson about Trump's response to the racist carnage in Charlottesville. Racist carnage. I'll leave that alone. Tillerson replied, I don't believe anyone doubts the American people's values or the commitment of the American government or the government agencies to advancing those values and defending those values. Wallace asked the obvious follow-up question. And the president's values? The president speaks for himself, Tillerson said. Wallace looked stunned. Well, he was stunned, and he should have been, because this was Tillerson's opportunity to back the president on national TV, and he bagged it. He bagged it. The president speaks for himself. What a stupid thing to say. All Tillerson had to say was, who do you think represents the government? I just told you, this government is not about that. You know, we don't advance those values. So that's all he had to say. I don't know whether he was, I don't know, who knows? But it's that alone, and I know how, I mean, just understanding Trump the way I do, and I'm not saying that it's because I know him and I'm spooning with him or anything. It's just knowing what he thinks. He's got to be thinking, what a stupid thing to say. Of course I don't share those values. Everybody in this administration should, at the very least, come to the aid of, you know, not that Trump needs the aid, but should certainly validate what they know about me. That's just silly. The man who would negotiate on behalf of America, ergo the President of the United States with the rest of the world, couldn't manage to back Donald Trump on a question of American values to Chris Wallace of Fox News? Are you kidding? No wonder, you know, Donald Trump was looking at himself going, why did I bring this clown on? So ask yourself this question. With all that's transpired in the world on foreign policy of the United States, I'm talking about Iran with all of the things that are going on over there, the protests and what have you, with what's happening in Italy with the new vote, with what happened with Brexit, which of course was a little bit before, but certainly follow on that, what's going on in Sweden, what's going on with the Middle East in general, certainly what's going on in the Far East with China, Japan, and the tariffs and all these other issues. You hear anything about Tillerson? Tillerson has a man handing him foreign policy exploits, and you barely hear Tillerson's name mentioned in any of these massive accomplishments by the Obama administration. You barely hear. In fact, Tillerson returned from Africa, supposedly, get this, to fix issues related to Trump's crap hole comments months ago. What? Are you kidding? There's no reason for Tillerson to go to Africa and say, "Let me help fix. Let's help you. Fix your bruised egos." Use the U.S. economy to whip countries into shape. Period. Remind those countries who brings more aid and more opportunities to them than the rest of the world combined. Remind them of where their citizens want to come to live, and so on and so forth. America needs a Secretary of Warrior to represent the Secretary of State. And Trump doesn't abide by those who timidly approach representing America. Represent this country and do it proudly. But Tillerson, as I said, it's almost like you don't even know he's there. You know, you're trying. Like I said, we've had many foreign policy exploits, and he is the marketing arm of America. And you hear nothing. Donald Trump, anybody remember the first thing Donald Trump did? He bombed the living daylights out of, I believe it was ISIS, and he bombed them in Syria or somewhere. He was like, I don't care whose territory it is. If I know ISIS is there, boom, I'm going to drop the bomb on you. And I think it was the mother of all bombs is what he dropped at the time. So he did that. Some fanfare, but not enough. And then you look at, okay, give you a good example. Donald Trump says, hey, we're going to be shipping beef to China. We hadn't shipped beef to China in more than a decade. Not much. No hoopla. Tillerson is supposed to be your cheerleader, man. Donald, he's our man. If he can't do it, nobody can. and he's persona. He's pretty much nowhere to be found. Donald Trump goes and gets this huge deal back from, this deal from Saudi Arabia. That big arms agreement, nothing. Same thing with Qatar. We just sold a bunch of stuff to Qatar, and they're going, well, Qatar was undermining Donald Trump. Donald Trump's like, I don't care what that little country does. They're going to buy $50 billion worth of more armaments. I don't care what they do. Doesn't bother me. Psst. But my point is, Tillerson is supposed to be talking about the wins that we're having all over the country. Israel, moving Jerusalem, moving the, on us saying that's where the capital is in Jerusalem and all the things that go with that. Moving the embassy moving London and on and on and on. Nothing. We can't gin up any media because Tillerson's one of these guys that likes to keep himself under the radar because that's what he did at Exxon. He didn't go around bragging about things. Trump needed a different type of character. And now he's got it. Pompeo.
Kevin Jackson on the Black Sphere Radio Network.
Do you owe back taxes to the IRS or state? The secret to avoiding the IRS nightmare is to seek professional representation. My friends at Security Tax Associates provide the most cost-effective and ethical representation in the industry while helping to avoid seizures, levies, and wage garnishments. Security Tax Associates is here to ensure that the appropriate steps are taken to permanently eliminate any possibility of future tax burdens once and for all. For a free, no-obligation consultation, contact Security Tax Associates, 844-779-4177. That's 844-779-4177. 844-779-4177 or visit them at securitytaxassociates.com.
Putting an end to identity politics. This is the Kevin Jackson Radio Show.
I don't know about you guys, but I would really like to gain some faith in our clandestine agencies, that these guys are competent enough to protect us, to protect our interests around the world. Here's the thing about Americans and the CIA around the world, for the most part. We aren't really looking to stir up trouble for the trouble's sake. We're looking to avoid it. And I'm not going to tell you the CIA hasn't done some really bad things. They have, and I'll be honest with you, I'm kind of glad they exist to do those things, because I know there are people that want to do far worse to us. But I want to believe in them. I want to believe they truly have America's best interests at heart, and that generally means that we've got the interest of other countries at heart. Now, that being said, stay out of their business. And I hope that that's what the new CIA director, she's appointed, and she probably will be, Gina Haspel, does. Welcome, everybody. Kevin Jackson here. It's the Kevin Jackson Show. KJRadio.com. Obviously, Rex Tillerson is gone. Mike Pompeo is now stepped in to be Secretary of State. I love this move. Have you seen Pompeo? Have you watched him talk to people and talk about the real threats of our nation? He ain't talking about global warming. Not at all. This is a guy who has cut his teeth in the clandestine agencies, and he knows exactly the threat that exists out there in the world, and he is now the chief cheerleader for America when it comes to foreign policy. So this is a guy that not only can help Donald Trump say, well, here's the issue regarding our trade policy and tariffs and cyber warfare, etc., but let me explain what's really going on behind the scenes, Mr. President. Whoa. Let me tell you, Rex Tillerson, nice man, accomplished guy, glad he came in to get some experience in government. But we need we need people like Pompeo who have the country's best interest at heart, partisanship notwithstanding. I don't care what side of the aisle, he puts an R after his name, a D, an I, whatever. I believe this man wants to support the president, whoever's in charge. In this case, it's Trump. He sees that Donald Trump is doing an amazing job, and he says, I can add to that flavor. And I can add to it in ways that other Americans need to shut up. See, this is a guy that knows it from the inside, ground level, in ways that I would tell you 99.9999% of this country would never want to know, would never be able to handle. Do 2 hours of his job in the Middle East and you're getting your head cut off somewhere in the desert on film. This is a guy that has to know what's going on. I'm not telling you he's Nostradamus and he's going to be able to just be, all things about this stuff. But talk about having certainly a wealth of knowledge in what to advise the president on when it comes to how to market America. Let me put it a different way. Hillary Clinton did it. She stunk. John Kerry did it. He stunk. Barack Obama was the guy pulling the strings on our foreign policy. Do I really need to tell you how bad he was? So we got all these people that have just stunk it up in marketing America. Then we get Tillerson, who's just too passive. And now we get somebody that, is in America's corner, understands it, knows the threats. If Putin tries to come in and go, well, Mr. Trump, you can do blankety blankety, and Pompeo says, not true. Here's what's really going on. It's a power struggle between Putin and this, that, and the other. And he whispers in the president's ear. And then Donald Trump looks at him and, he has that look where he just presses his lips together and he doesn't say much. And he just kind of nods at you like, yeah, I got you. I figured you out. Man, this is if it goes the way it should go on paper, these two are going to become very good friends. They're going to really know what they're doing. I'm happy to see this. Katrina Pearson, my friend, she's rejoining the White House. She's going to handle grassroots. I guess she's going to handle what's her face? Omarosa really should have been doing, but she's going to be building up this grassroots army. Man, oh man, I'm definitely going to be ringing up Katrina. In fact, I'm going to do that. Put that on my note. We're going to send a note to Katrina because the Tea Party community is going to become a big deal, and I'm going to definitely get that meeting. If it's not with her, I'll get it with the president. It's that simple. But who I'm really excited about is Haspel. I don't know if you ever saw this movie where they were talking about different things that had come up while we were post 9/11 and all the different things that were going on. And the guy one of the guys I saw, she worked for him. I think he was a Hispanic surname. They mentioned him, Jose Rodriguez. He's the one that denied about the waterboarding, said destroy the tapes, and he destroyed the tapes. And he's like, yeah, I destroyed them. If you ever see this interview, it's really good. And what they're talking about, all the aftermath of 9/11 and what we were doing and how we were trying to figure things out, and we weren't going to let anybody else, do something horrible to America, like nuclear bombs, stuff like that. So these guys went after him. And let me tell you, when they talk about we waterboarded to try to find things out about people, a lot of people get upset when I tell people I'll waterboard you in a second. Waterboarding will feel like I'm giving you a manicure and a pedicure compared to some of the things I would do to you to get secrets if I thought you were going to put American citizens in harm's way. The least of your worries will be the feeling of drowning. Crazy. Even discussing this just makes me, I get livid to believe that in our government there are people who would rather watch American citizens die than to torture somebody to find out what could save lives. It's just not who we are. So Barack Obama, it's not who we are. Yeah, it is. I would do it. And I wouldn't even think twice about it. That's why I say to people, if you want me in government, understand that I'm going to protect you to the fullest. Kevin, would you violate the laws of American citizens? Nope. Wouldn't do that. But you tell me there's a terrorist that we caught who's been trying to kill us, and he may know how, a way to save 10 lives, 100 lives, 1,000 lives, 1,000,000 lives. Consider him tortured. And he'll talk. He won't talk. No, he won't talk. Yeah, he will. Yeah, he will. Because I'll tell him, let me just explain something to you. You will have never existed. I'm not even going to go there. I'm just telling you, nothing's off limits when I'm trying to save American lives. I'll leave it at that. Anyway, Haspel, they said, was held in high regard at the CIA, but her nomination, she ran the National Clandestine Services or something like that. What was it? I forget, but it's something like that, National Clandestine Agency or something. But she ran something within the CIA that was all about the secret stuff, right? And she ran it worldwide. And anyway, when they found out she was part of this waterboarding thing, then they were like, it makes us uncomfortable that she's there. And I'm thinking, who said who? No, not me. No way. I'm not uncomfortable at all. Joined the CIA in 1985. Yeah, there it is. Deputy Director of National Clandestine Service. That's the secret. I don't know if that's the secret of the secretive, but it's a big deal. So here's what scares me about it, though. In 2013, John Brennan, then director of the CIA, named Haspel as acting director of the National Clandestine Service, which carried out covert operations across the globe. Now, he may have done that because she's a woman. I don't know what their ideology is, and here's what I can say about that as it pertains to this particular type of agency. I don't think your ideology should matter. Shouldn't protecting America be the big deal? But you know what? We have to worry about this. I watch Homeland. I know how lefties, we can't do things like that because that would be against the Geneva Convention, or that would be against the rules. There's no such thing. So anyway, she was chief of staff to Jose Rodriguez, the guy I was telling you guys about, and he headed CIA's counterterrorism center. And she supposedly was the one who drafted the cable that ordered the destruction of the videotapes that Rodriguez said, I'd do it again. And what he did, I think he said something like, I wanted people to have, what do they call it? Where you don't know that something happened. Whatever, accountability, whatever. You know what I'm talking about. He didn't want them to have that. So he said, I just destroyed the tapes. That took it off the table. See, I like guys like that. Where's he at? I want him in the organization.
He won't stop until he's the top-rated radio talk show host in America.
What kind of weird competitive freak are you?
This is the Kevin Jackson Radio Show. This is the Kevin Jackson Radio Show.
I was talking to one of my radio friends, and I was saying that radio is more when it doesn't have that camera in there, because I've seen all these guys go into video. I don't find it very interesting, because what happens with the mind? And I was saying to her, I go, when I first got into radio, I wanted to fill. The 1 second of pause just made me uneasy. Just like that. I always wanted to, it's like it was frantic pace. Keep talking, Kevin, keep talking. And then I said to myself, no. Radio is about pacing. It's about understanding that the audience needs time to absorb. Think about it. Dun, 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 dun. Dun, 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 dun. Dun, 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 dun. Now, what are you doing? You're feeling for me. Welcome, everybody. Kevin Jackson here. It's a Kevin Jackson Show. You're feeling for me. I'm inside of your brain. I'm telling you things that I want to think about, but I'm letting you figure it out. Now, in the case of the Star Spangled Banner, which all of you sort of got the melody of it, right? You filled for me. I influenced you to fill it because you know that tune. But you know what happens in politics? I only give you a certain amount of things to think about. If I talk about trust, this is what I was explaining to my friend. I said, let's just talk about trust for a second. I said, that's something everybody wants. That's something you are programmed to need. As a child, you have to trust your parents because in order to meet Maslow's basic needs, talking about you need food, clothing, and shelter, right? Your parents have to get it to you and you have to trust. Take that away and you're not a very trusting person. You become a skeptic. Remove the parents and suddenly I'm a cynic. I'm wondering what's going on. It's all against me. Well, hey, where's your God now, Moses? Where's your God now? So Democrats, leftists, particularly black leftists, they don't learn how to trust much because they lose these very trusting people in their lives. They lose their parents. Many times it could be dad's in prison or dead, mom's a crackhead, working too hard. They can't trust. So that there's a basic thing there. But think about it this way. You want to trust, right? Who do you trust the most? Who are the people around you? The people you don't trust? Of course not. It's the people you trust that are around you. If you have a wife or a husband, the reason why you probably pick that person is because you know them and you can trust them. They're predictable to a degree for you, and so there's a trust factor. If it's a friend, you know, oh man, if I got a problem, I can call old Kev. I can call him, man. He'll give me the truth, man. Maybe it's a boss. You could have worked somewhere else, but you chose to stay with this boss because he was predictable. You could trust him. You knew what he said went. Now I could go on. Situations that you've trusted. You know, you ain't getting me to go by that alley. No, I'm not parking by that van. I can't trust the situation. Not going to happen. Who do you not hang around? Man, I was with that dude. He left me with the bill. I did that on a guy just recently. Yeah, I was in an airport and struck up a conversation with a dude, and I didn't realize my plane was about to take off, and I took off. And he was like, yeah, man, he recognized me, and we were talking about politics and all that, and they bring, I got to wrap it up. She brings me a to-go box. I take off, and boom, I'm on the plane. Guy sends me a note. Kev, you ran your check. It's like, what? So I said, hey, let me pay you for it. He says, don't worry about it. I took care of it. And I said, let me pay you for it. No problem. He's a great conversation, etc. I said, here's the deal. Send me your address. I'm going to send you something because I got to make sure you get something. You want to know why? Because I want that guy to know I didn't run that check. Even though I did. I didn't do it intentionally. But I want you to trust me. I want you to understand what I'm doing here. When I have benefactors that, thankfully now do a pretty good job of funding our projects. And, I tell them all the time, we keep everything separate in meticulous accounting. Because I want you to know when you come to look at the books on this deal, you'll know exactly where it is. We got a project launching. I told the guy, write up the proposal. He gave me salaries for people for $12,500, $13,000 a month or whatever. I said, take them out. I said, whoever runs that position will make no more than $5,000 a month. That's $60,000 a year. These are projects that people could make $150,000 a year. Not us. Not going to happen. I said, you're not going to get rich on our projects. Our projects pay your bills, but launch. And that's it. Our job is to get the word out. You can't do it for free, but you're not going to do it on a profit. And I want good people, but I want them to be dedicated to it. So he rewrote it. I said, if you're a principal in this organization, you'll probably be underpaid because you shouldn't want to break that trust. So anyway, I was telling this young lady that we're talking about on radio, I was like, There's a thing about radio that lets people figure things out. That's a beautiful thing. Inside of those pauses, there's a story, right? And the more you explain yourself and how you came to be, and then you say, now figure it out. I'm going to give you a second. I just did. I gave you a second to figure it out. That's what radio does. That's why I love it so much. It truly is theater of the mind, but it's bigger than that. It helps you craft, this solution for things in your own way with gentle nudges here and there. We're having a conversation. I don't hear your side of it. You're only hearing mine. But you know what? I'm interpreting you. And I'm building it from a lot of different experiences and things like that. And that's why I enjoy this so much. I really do. Wish we made more money at it. No lie. But that's okay. We'll figure that out. It's all God's plan, as they say. But the other thing I was telling her is you want that audience to understand you and have an intimacy with you that's just based on you being you. And then we had a discussion, and I'm talking about us, the audience. Well, I've talked to you guys, and I ask you, what do you know about Obama? Not much. What do you think the left knows about him? What do you think they're going through right now? Do you think they know that they can't trust him? What do you think they're dealing with right now with Hillary Clinton? Do you think they can trust her? Of course they don't. They can't even trust themselves. That's the problem they're experiencing right now. And they want you to think you're in trouble, but they're in trouble. Short break.
This is the Kevin Jackson Radio Show.
Do you owe back taxes to the IRS or state? The secret to avoiding the IRS nightmare is to seek professional representation. My friends at Security Tax Associates provide the most cost-effective and ethical representation in the industry while helping to avoid seizures, levies, and wage garnishments. Security Tax Associates is here to ensure that the appropriate steps are taken to permanently eliminate any possibility of future tax burdens once and for all. For a free, no-obligation consultation, contact Security Tax Associates, 844-779-4177. That's 844-779-4177. 844-779-4177. Or visit them at securitytaxassociates.com.
Beth Cook Moranville, author of Closer Than Your Breath, a book of hope.
Hope, that wonderful, wonderful 4-letter word that you may feel completely out of. I wrote this book to give you great hope. It's not too late. If fetal position is an all too familiar place for you, I understand. If the next 60 seconds are too long, this book is for you. Wherever you are right now, whether you're dealing with divorce or death or sickness, take hope. You are going to make it through this pain. Don't roll your eyes. I've walked this road and I know it. The best is yet to come.
Closer Than Your Breath, a book of hope from author and speaker Beth Cook Moranville, can be found on Amazon.com or Kindle.com. For more information, visit closerthanyourBreath.com or on Facebook at Closer Than Your Breath.
This is the Kevin Jackson Radio Show.
I'm just going to say this. Hillary Clinton's a bonehead. And I said it earlier. If you supported Hillary Clinton, you need to have yourself checked. If you supported her and you no longer support her, I'll give you a pass. If you supported her and you still support her, you are a bonehead moron. True. Just a fact. Don't be mad at me for telling you the truth about yourself. Kevin Jackson's who you're listening to, KJRadio.com. I mean, I listen to these people talk about the left. I don't think they're ever going to get it. I want to play a clip. Get that clip on I think his name's Vandahay. Anyway, he talks about Trump voters. These are people that want to convince you to come check them out in the next election. The very people like the liberals who say, we're going to raise your taxes So what? Trump's deal worked. We're going to raise your taxes. But here's a guy named Vanderhay. I think he owns Axios. And he's talking about Trump voters. I want you to tell me if this would convince you that you need to go vote for the Democrats.
This is Donald Trump's party now. If you look at his message in the final week, it's not about tax cuts. It's about sanctuary cities. It's about being weak on crime. It's about being anti-America, anti-God. Like, those things, they believe, are what will resonate with the people who turned out for Donald Trump.
Where do these people come from? That Donald Trump is anti-American and anti-God. There couldn't be a more pro-American dude on the planet than Donald Trump. And even though I wouldn't call him the strongest Christian, he's certainly not anti-God, and he's proven that. Welcome back, everybody. Kevin Jackson is who you're listening to. These people are phonies, man. And the level of desperation, and you see it when they try to flip the script. Maybe that worked in the old days. It doesn't work any longer. I was listening. There was a person that made this quote. He said, "I'm not different for the sake of being different, only for the desperate sake of being myself. I can't join your gang. You think I was a phony, and I'd know it." See, that's the way I look at the Democrats. If you want to be a part of that, you got to be a phony. How can you possibly believe that I've never? Tell me that you believe that with this guy Vanderhay. This is a guy who's in a position of authority. He's on MSNBC or CNN or whatever, and he's telling you that Donald Trump is anti-American and anti-God. Who in their wildest dreams would believe such nonsense? I think it was Thoreau who said, "It's a characteristic of wisdom not to do desperate things." Get to the point where, when you get to the point of desperation, it means you haven't planned. Desperation is like kind of a last resort thing. As a grown man, there should be very few things that make you desperate. You should have planned for that all throughout your life. And now when a situation hits, you're ready to avoid desperation. Rarely will you do something right in desperation. Rarely. Now you'll learn from it, but it should be a process. Oh man. I'm thinking about everything that's going on, all these things that are attacking our sensibilities. And it made me think of this. It made me think of, what's the opposite of desperation? Well, it's calm. It's that simple. It's calm. I talked earlier about the tempo of a show, a radio show, and how I would desperately want to fill because I thought that's what you wanted. Talk, Kevin, talk. You got a lot to say, man. A lot to get it in. You don't want to talk about the same thing. Come on, just fill it up. And then it hit me. Nope. It's not what you want. Should I provoke thought in you? Absolutely. But once I provoke thought, you need to take over and you need to have a time to consider it. So I could say something like, man, okay, let's just recap real quickly. Barack Obama, scandalous administration. So where do we begin? Do we begin in Benghazi? Was that scandalous? Do we begin with the VA scandal where he was killing veterans on waiting lists? Do we begin with the Fast and Furious scandal where he put arms into Mexico? What about when he was doing things against the conservatives with the IRS? Do we start there? Or maybe we start with the FISA scandal, the new thing. And I was talking about trust earlier. Do you trust Obama? I can give you those. Those are the scandals. Would you trust him in war as a military person? Would you trust him as a member of your State Department, particularly on 9/11? Where would you trust him? Would you trust him as a conservative? Would you trust him as a member of the Border Patrol? Would you trust him on gun control? Is he going to tell you the truth on anything? What do you know about him? Now let me calm down and let you think about it. That's the toughest thing to learn in this business is respect the audience enough so you guys can have time to figure it out. See, I'm not telling you how to feel. I'm just telling you, here's the things that I consider when I'm prepping for this show, when I'm thinking about what we're going to talk about. And you know what? Sometimes it's repetitive. I'll talk to kids, you train them, and they're like, you told me that, sir. You told me that. Yeah, I know. Keep my glove on the ground. Yeah, you know why I tell you? Because you keep raising your glove up, you clown. Keep telling you the same thing. If I tell you to keep your arm up and we're sparring, it's because you're keeping your arm down. Next time I'm just going to knock your little head off. Keep your arm up. Keep your arm up. I know to keep my arm up, Mr. Jackson. Okay, I'm not going to tell you again. Just pop them. What was that for? I'm not going to tell you. Yeah, keep your arm up, clown. So, Hillary Clinton. That's what I really want to talk about. She's in India, talking smack. And here's what she had to say.
If you look at the map of the United States, there's all that red in the middle where Trump won. Now, I win the coasts, I win, Illinois and Minnesota, places like that. But what the map doesn't show you is that I won the places that represent 2/3 of America's gross domestic product. So I won the places that are optimistic, diverse, dynamic, moving forward. And his whole campaign, Make America Great Again, was looking backwards. You didn't like black people getting rights. You don't like women, getting jobs. You don't want to, see that Indian American succeeding more than you are. Whatever your problem is, I'm going to solve it.
Wow. Where do you start? Welcome back, everybody. Kevin Jackson here. Hillary Clinton. She won the optimistic places. I don't know if she really looked hard at that map. Hillary Clinton won the coast and the inner cities. And she talks about the GDP. What does she think? The overwhelming population of people, of factories are in those areas. But I tell you what, I'd take conservatives and I'd give her all that she thinks she's won. I'd give it to her. I'd say, you can have that part of the country. And I'd take conservatives and I'll tell you what, they would be fighting each other on who's going to eat who gets to eat grandma within a decade. They'd be like Venezuela, eating their pets, and we'd be thriving. Businesses would leave the cities, they'd leave the coast, and they'd come to middle America, and you could wrap your arms around the rest of the country and just bump the coast into the ocean. That's how bad it would be. Wouldn't take long at all. Let Hillary be the leader of those clowns. I'd love to see it. Anyway, I want to cover something else when we come back that Hillary said. Keep it here.
This is the Kevin Jackson Radio Show. This is the Kevin Jackson Radio Show.
Before we jump back into this Hillary thing, I want to give you guys a quick update. So Joy Behar apologized on The View, and she says, I think Vice President Pence is right. I was raised to respect everyone's religious faith, and I fell short of that. I sincerely apologize for what I said. I believe her. I do. I'm not a fan of Joy Behar whatsoever, but I believe her. I believe she finally got the sanity of the situation and said, you know what, that's true. Look, there are things you can joke about, and you can say, yeah, I was only joking. And you can get away with it. And there are things where but when Jesus talks back to you, you're crazy. And you're going, wait a minute, whoa, hold on a minute, Muhammad. So the fact that she apologized, I give her credit for it. She's still a shrew. I don't trust the word she says in terms of her political ideology. But here's what I like about it. We're winning. That's a good example of us winning. The person that she supports, I don't know how long these people are going to support Hillary Clinton. I want to play that clip again because we got two we're going to play. One where Hillary Clinton's in India and she's talking about what she won, the votes she won. I want to show you how delusional this woman is. The left tell you they want to bring the country together. And what does she do? She yet again tells you how deplorable you are. Get that clip for me, buddy.
If you look at the map of the United States, there's all that red in the middle where Trump won. Now, I win the coasts, I win, Illinois and Minnesota, places like that. But what the map doesn't show you is that I won the places that represent 2/3 of America's gross domestic product. So I won the places that are optimistic, diverse, dynamic, moving forward. And his whole campaign, Make America Great Again, was looking backwards. You know, you didn't like black people getting rights. You don't like women, getting jobs. You don't want to, see that Indian American succeeding more than you are. Whatever your problem is, I'm going to solve it.
Welcome back, everybody. If you want to talk about a person who has no idea, I mean, she wants to cater to an audience. That's why she threw the Indians in there. Indians succeeding. But if you didn't like black people getting rights, yeah, I'm sure that was on the mind of many Trump voters, Trump supporters, is, how can we stop these black people from getting rights? How can we stop women from getting jobs? Which, by the way, probably more women are employed under Trump than certainly under Obama. And of course, well, I know many conversations we had about how do we stop those rascally Indians from being so smart and getting all these IT jobs. She goes on to say, whatever your problem is, I'll solve it. Which, by the way, not to go all ice baby on you, vanilla ice, but whatever your problem is, Trump pretty much did solve it. But that was only the beginning. I've said this. I said it two or three times this show. I'm going to say it again. If you support Hillary Clinton after what she just said, you are a brain dead, moron. I'll get it. You're a moron. See, Donald Trump got the red in the middle. I won the coast. I won Illinois, Minnesota. She's lying. You take out any big city in any state, and she doesn't even win California. She doesn't win Massachusetts. But I love how and when she said that if you look at the places that she won, it's 2/3 of America's GDP, and it was this tepid clapping like, yeah, I guess, yeah. But if you get a chance to see this video, this is a video of her in India at some speech thing. And here's what I'll tell you. If you look at it, there are Indians looking around going, what's she smoking? This woman's crazy. You can see them in the audience going, that's nonsense. You can see it. Also, I bet you most of them caught on where she talked about Indians succeeding. I bet you most of them caught that. It was nonsense. Tepid clapping. Then she went on to say this. I want the areas that are optimistic, diverse, moving forward, and Trump moving backward. So the majority of the nation, geographically speaking, and oh, by the way, with GDP and all that other stuff included, I talked about this earlier, voted for President Trump, and she is distancing herself from him. She's saying her side is optimistic and diverse and moving forward. And then there are those deplorables. And she can soft shoe it any way she wants. That's what she believes. That if you didn't support her, you're a deplorable. You should have voted for the crook, the person who has ripped off more people in the world, probably killed more people than any politician in America, in American history. And she wants you to have voted her in, or else you're crazy. You're not optimistic. You're not moving forward. You're not opportunistic or whatever. Give me some other words. There she goes, protecting black people, women, and even Indians. Yeah. Let's play the next clip. This is the one that's even more revealing.
I was also surprised looking at the details of the American election is how almost 52% of white women voted for him, in spite of the Billy Bush tape and so forth. How do you explain that?
Well, I should start by explaining that Democrats, going back to my husband and even before, but just in recent times, going back to Bill and our candidates and then President Obama, have been losing the white vote, including white women. We do not do well with white men, and we don't do well with married white women. And part of that is an identification with the Republican Party and a sort of ongoing pressure to vote the way that your husband, your boss, your son, whoever, believes you should. And what happened in my election is I was on the way to winning white women until former director of the FBI, Jim Comey, dropped that very ill-advised letter on October the 28th, and my numbers just went down because and I heard a lot of anecdotal evidence about this. People have written about it. All of a sudden, white women who were going to vote for me and frankly standing up to the men in their lives and the men in their workplaces were being told, she's going to jail. You don't want to vote for her. It's going to be terrible. You can't vote for that. So it stopped my momentum and it decreased my vote enough because I was ahead, I was winning, and I thought I had fought my way back in the 10 days from that letter until the election. I fell a little bit short. And so I think that it was part of a historical trend that I was bucking, and then it collapsed on me.
Welcome back, everybody. Wow. Just wow. Kevin Jackson's who you're listening to. I have to tell you, I would be so embarrassed to hear a person say this. Ask a question. 52% of white women voted for Trump. And here's what Hillary Clinton says. Democrats have been losing the white vote, including white women. Now, you want to know why? Anybody want to guess why? Well, let me tell you. It's because Democrats have essentially punched white people, particularly white men, in the face. And white women have seen what they've been doing to white men and said, you know what? Enough is enough. I may not be able to get you in normal mode, but I'll get you back at the ballot box. And that's why 52% of women who, by the way, these are people that were they were beat down by the left. You cannot support that misogynist, that sucker, blah, blah, blah. And they were doing everything they could to make Donald Trump the worst thing for a woman in the world, and it didn't work. And then she goes on to say, no, it was married white women. Let me tell you something, people. It was single white girls who didn't know anything about Hillary Clinton. Hillary Clinton was no Susan B. Anthony for them. She was just some old white chick that wanted to get into power. They didn't give a crap about her. It wasn't just married women. And then she says, well, it was their identification with the Republican Party. Now, wait a minute. I don't know what the demographics are. I'm not going to pretend to. I don't know whether white women were 50% Republican, 50% Democrat, split down the middle, how many independent or whatever. But I'll tell you this, with what they did to Donald Trump, Hillary Clinton should have won 60% of the white women vote. She has no excuse. There's no overwhelming white women look to the Republicans. And in fact, white women have been beaten down so much by by feminists. I'm shocked that they do anything outside of the Democrats. But then this ongoing pressure to vote the way of their husbands, their bosses, even their sons. She says, whoever believes you should, whatever man believes you should. Then what's funny, I was on my way to winning the white women before Comey dropped his ill-advised letter that, by the way, saved her butt. White women were going to vote for her standing up to their men. God, ladies, let me tell you, I don't care whether you're conservative or you're liberal or whatever. This lady is demented. She is brain dead. She's demented. I was going to buck the historical trend. Oh, you did. You proved that with all the advantages, you can still get your butt kicked.
Kevin Jackson on the Black Sphere Radio Network.
Do you owe back taxes to the IRS or state? The secret to avoiding the IRS nightmare is to seek professional representation. My friends at Security Tax Associates provide the most cost-effective and ethical representation in the industry while helping to avoid seizures, levies, and wage garnishments. Security Tax Associates is here to ensure that the appropriate steps are taken to permanently eliminate any possibility of future tax burdens once and for all. For a free, no-obligation consultation, contact Security Tax Associates, 844-779-4177. That's 844-779-4177. 844-779-4177. Or visit them at securitytaxassociates.com.
putting an end to identity politics. This is the Kevin Jackson Radio Show.
Welcome back, everybody. Boy, I'm still reeling over what Hillary Clinton said about India. In India about Trump and, black people and women and Indians and, just segregating the countries, segmenting the country into all these different pieces and pretending that she was the one who's driving the best of America as she now scrounges for a living. I don't know. I'm going to look and see how the Clinton Foundation is doing, but they can't be doing that great. And let me tell you, I know a lot of us are still, the left are trying to make us believe that all these scandals are going to go away. They're not going away. They finally poked the tiger enough where Donald Trump is starting to solve problems. And let me tell you, if Sessions is next to go, I don't think he's going to go right now because he's doing some things behind the scenes that I think are better and smarter than what people believe. But if they don't work, Sessions will be gone. He'll put in somebody, I don't know who, like a Trey Gowdy type that's going to initiate these special prosecutor, these investigations. And we're going to get to the bottom of this. Fear not. We're only in March. We got a little bit of ways to go. And don't be surprised if a lot of this stuff happens in October, because as Trump gets smarter, year 2 is going to be amazing. He's going to have the operatives in place. He's going to have the swamp pretty much drained and know who's who, and he's going to put the hammer down. And don't be surprised if the October surprise are indictments on indictments of leftists out the wazoo. Let me tell you, you're going to continue to see Democrats fleeing the ship all year long. Trust me on this, folks. And Donald Trump's going to continue to refine his team. And that team's going to get better and better. I'll ask you this. Is Katrina Pearson heads and shoulders better than Omarosa? I'd say. Mike Pompeo, sorry, Mr. Tillerson, he's a much better choice. From a CIA perspective, I like Pompeo, but I love that he's got this lady who was right there with Rodriguez. I think that's what his name was. Anyway, he was a guy that was director of clandestine services, and she watched him do his job, and she's now ready to move forward. I'm telling you, he's putting good people on top of people that weren't bad, but could be better. And you're going to watch this occur. And the left are going, there's turnover. Good. I hope there's turnover. I hope there's more. Anyway, here's another thing that happened with Rex Tillerson that they say might have led to this. Now, I say Tillerson's firing was because they didn't have the same personality. Donald Trump set the stage for Tillerson for success, and he passed it. But they say the abrupt firing of Secretary of State Tillerson followed months of infighting between the State Department and the White House over Tillerson trying to save the Iran nuclear deal. And that means he ignored President Trump's demand that agreement be fixed or completely scrapped by the United States. Now, I'm going to tell you, I don't know what Tillerson's motivation would have been to do this, because his job is to pretty much follow what the president sets. That's what's so, I don't know, you can call it beautiful about what you do for Trump, or some people it might be the bad thing. If you don't agree with the way he's going, maybe it isn't so beautiful. Trump says, I want that agreement either scrapped or we're going to redo it completely. It's pretty simple. Go make that happen. Don't go around it. Don't try to do something different. Don't try to improvise. Do what he's told you to do. End of story. Does it make sense that he would fire somebody over that? Sure it does. Yeah, they said in the weeks leading up to Tillerson's departure, he had been spearheading efforts to convince European allies to agree to a range of fixes to the nuclear deal that would address Iran's ongoing ballistic missile program and continue nuclear research. Now, I'm going to interrupt here to say this. There is no fixing Iran. Iran has been exporting terror since the mullahs took over in the late 1970s and the early 1980s. When Khomeini came on, that 20-year period, the Iranian government said, we're going to destabilize the Middle East and we will become the de facto group here. And that's that. And that's exactly what happened. I use these statistics quite often because I think they're rather telling. One attack, Arab attack in the 70s, 13 Islamic attacks, terrorist attacks in the 80s, That was in the time of the mullahs. 35 in the 90s. And in the year 2000, over 2,000 attacks. During that 20-year period, they started ramping up. Iran did. And the next thing you know, boom, all over the world, terror attacks. And they did it very sneaky. Using the laws of Sweden and Finland and Norway and Germany and France and Britain and the United States and Canada to infiltrate. And suddenly, boom, they pull the trigger and there it goes. And then they decided they were going to have this theocracy around the globe, this Islamic revolution. Kill all the infidels. You will submit or we will, rape and pillage and charge you jiza and everything else. So that's what they've been doing and getting away with it. And it's so clear to see from the time those guys took over, you had that gap for when they finally said, okay, here's how we're going to go about it. At the 20-year mark, boom, it took off. Terror out the wazoo. Al-Qaeda, ISIS, Al-Shabaab. There are names that I've never heard years ago. Wouldn't even know who these people are. So that's what you got. Anyway, this thing goes on to say, while Trump had prescribed a range of fixes that he viewed as tightening the deal's flaws, Tillerson recently caved to European pressure to walk back these demands and appease Tehran while preserving the deal. Not a smart move. Tillerson's going to be replaced, as you know. But look, does this make sense? To me, it doesn't make sense in the sense that why would Tillerson do that? But maybe he's that guy. Maybe he really felt like, look, I'm not doing anything elsewhere. I'm not intervening in China. I haven't done anything with Russia. Where am I going to put my stamp on things? They say, we've known about it. This article goes on to say, while Tillerson's exit had been rumored for months, multiple sources with knowledge of the situation said the former secretary's repeated attempts to balk the White House and pursue his own diplomatic strategy, particularly with Iran, triggered his sudden exit. Now, I remember, and I don't recall the specific thing, but there was a rift between some way that Trump wanted to handle. It could have been North Korea. And Tillerson balked at the time, and he and Trump were like, going at heads, but you're not going to win that battle against the president, especially against a guy as accomplished as Donald Trump. So, again, I don't know what story do you believe here? Do you really believe that Tillerson was so dogmatic in support of Iran, knowing how these people are? I'll tell you this. I work with the Iranian resistance, the NCRI. Went to Paris last year to talk to them about what needs to happen. And I'll be honest, I don't have any inside knowledge of what Donald Trump's doing with respect to this. But I do know this. We started getting messages to him by way of Twitter and other means to say, don't believe this Iranian regime. Don't believe they want to denuke themselves and a host of other things. These are people who are slick. They're getting slicker. They've got a propaganda campaign going on around the world, not just in Europe, around the world. They know how to play politics. They've infiltrated everything, and you better not trust them. And I think that this is and I'll be honest, I've been saying when Donald Trump finally gets to the point where he's focused on Iran, the world is going to become a safer place. Look at what's going on right now with China. And you can see the results of that. With North Korea and how he's been leveraging China for the results there. I believe at some point Iran's going to find itself in a similar situation. I think Donald Trump is saying, I'm going to shore up all these other things before I tackle what I believe is one of the biggest problems, Iran. Before we tackle that, I'm going to make sure we've shored up all these other things. And then when I get onto that, it is going to be bad news. And I've been telling the guys over at NCR, the Iranian resistance, hold on, guys. This is going to become a big story. Because they're always telling me, Kevin, can you get us media in America so we can talk more about this? And I'm like, look, I've been trying to figure out when it's going to happen. Like when the Iranian Revolution was beginning to occur, everybody's starting to, protest and all that in Iran. And people have been killed. They've been sending me notes saying, Kevin, now that we just lost another person. And I say, as much as I want to cover this, guys, it's getting eaten up by things like Stormy Daniels. How sick is that? It's getting eaten up in the news cycle. But when it comes, it's going to come big. And you guys have to be ready. You got to be ready with video, etc. These guys are poised and ready to go. I can't wait to get some of this stuff out that you're going to, that's being talked about right now. Got to leave it there.
He won't stop until he's the top-rated radio talk show host in America.
What kind of weird competitive freak are you?
This is the Kevin Jackson Radio Show.